We're growing fallout tonight after a former senior advisor to President Obama advises Americans to wait just 3 more years before Obamacare starts performing the way the administration promised it would. Here's David Plouffe.
I think it's just a fact, and it may take till 2017 when this president leaves office. You're going to see almost every state in this country running their own exchanges eventually and expanding Medicaid, and I think it'll work really well then.
Karl Rove is a former senior advisor to President George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. And to steal a line from Meet the Parents, well, we'll look forward to that, Greg. I mean, 2017, Karl, he's talking about Medicaid, not the entire law, but there's a whole lot of people going on the Medicaid rolls under this law right now.
Yeah, and far more than anticipated, and particularly when you look at it, the relationship. They anticipated for every one person added to Medicaid, there'd be one person who would be added to the private insurance market, and that's not working out at all. There are a heck of a lot more people being added. For example, in Oregon, 52,000 people being added to Medicaid and 0 being added to private insurance. Look, this was happy talk. This was going on and bubble and look exuberant and excited, but it was happy talk. You just wait. We passed this law 3 years ago. We've completely screwed up its implementation over the last 3 years. Wait 3 more years and we're going to get it right. And oh, incidentally, we'll be out of office, so you can't blame us anymore.
But what they keep saying is it's a website problem. It's not a law problem, and the website is well on its way to being repaired. That's the party line right now.
No. Look, this is a law problem. This program, this law is terrible, and it's going to get worse. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Losing coverage. They estimated that 2 million people would lose their existing private.
Can you turn it more so we can see it? Yeah.
2 million people would lose their existing private coverage in 2014. We already have, as you said earlier, 6.4 million policies. Most of those policies cover multiple people. There are probably 10, 12, 14 million people who've already lost their coverage. 200,000 have apparently been enrolled through the end of at the end of November. So for every one person who's been enrolled, we've had 32 people lose their coverage. That's a very bad trajectory, and it's not going to get that much better. Subsidies. One of the reasons they think this thing is going to be popular is because people are going to have their coverage subsidized, and their estimate was that next year for out of every 8 people who signed up, 7 would get a subsidy and 1 would not. Thus far, of the people who signed up in private exchanges, for every 1 person who's getting a subsidy, 3 are not. For those who've signed up in the federal exchange, for every 1 person who's got a subsidy, more than 2, about 2.5, have not, which means their insurance is becoming more expensive in all likelihood. Higher deductible, higher premium. And finally, remember this, 2017, by the administration's own numbers, how many people are going to be uninsured in 2017? 30 million. So Mr. Plouffe can go on and with his happy talk, but the American people know differently. When the administration talks one way and the reality is being felt a different way, it hurts.
Let me talk to you about that second to last line you had on the whiteboard, which is the number of people getting the subsidies, because that really is important. I want to tell the audience that in my conversations with one of the key architects of this law, David Cutler, he explained to me that they really genuinely believe that if people could just get on the website, that they would see these great policies that actually are cheaper, he says, in most instances, because of the subsidies. And I said, well, then, if that is true, why are we getting all these reports of people not qualifying for a subsidy and having to pay more money? And he said that genuinely confuses him. He said that when he sees it for the younger people, he understands it because that was anticipated. But when he sees older people having to pay more under healthcare.gov, he assured me that that is unusual to him. They did not expect that. They expected those people to be subsidized.
Yeah, look, 87.5% of the people who are signing up were expected to get a subsidy. If you look at the number on the state exchanges, it's 23%, and for the federal exchanges, it's under 30%. So it's well below what people anticipated, what the experts who devised this law anticipated, and it's because, look, there are perverse incentives in the law to drive up costs. There's a thing called essential benefits, which adds a bunch of provisions and a bunch of benefits and mandates a bunch of coverage that a lot of people don't want. There also is a tendency in here to not only increase the premium because of that, but to also increase the deductible, so people have a higher out-of-pocket expense.
Listen, I got to run soon, but I want to get this in before we go. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is claiming the Democrats are going to run on Obamacare come these midterm elections. She's embracing it, both arms around it with a big bear hug. Do you think that's real, or is that spin?
I'm afraid it's spin. I pray to God that it's true. As a Republican, I pray to God that everyone and the Democratic Party, who is a candidate, follows religiously her advice to put this at the center of her campaign. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi believes it as well. I hope that the administration encourages every Democrat to make it the centerpiece of their campaign, particularly if they voted for it. They ought to stand up like Mary Landrieu said recently, that Senator Landrieu from Louisiana, that she would vote for it again in a second. I hope they do it. It would lead to utter defeat in November.
Wow. All right, Karl Rove, thank you, sir.